Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video we're going to be going over isosceles triangles. Now we talked about isosceles triangles in the last lesson. An isosceles triangle is when two of the sides are congruent. And we're just going to identify and label some of the parts. So the legs, all right, the legs are the two congruent sides. So if we were to, label this right here, actually, let's just say this is a leg and this is a leg, okay? Then we have the base. The base then would be the third side, the one that's not congruent. So this right here, this would be the base. That was bad. Okay. Then we have the base angles. The base angles, as you could probably guess, are the two angles adjacent to the base. Okay. So these right here, those would be the base angles. Let's and then the vertex angle then would be the third angle. Okay, so those are all the parts, just so that like when we're talking later, you understand what we mean when we say things. So there's actually a theorem, all right, that goes with the base angles called the base angle theorem. And it's very important with isosceles triangles. It says that the two sides of a triangle are congruent, right? And then the angles opposite them are also congruent, okay? So if these two sides are congruent, the angles, basically the two base angles opposite of those sides are also congruent, okay? And that's an important theorem. So you can do some stuff with that. So for example, find the value of x in the figure below, right? So normally we wouldn't know what to do here because we only have two angles, right? However, because this is an isosceles triangle, we know that the two base angles have to be congruent. And since one base angle is x plus 10 degrees, we know that this angle also has to be x plus 10 degrees, okay? And now we do know all three angles, and since we know all three angles, we can set them equal to 180. So we've got 3x plus x plus 10 plus x plus 10 equals 180. And then, you can go through all your solving. 5x plus 20 equals 180. Subtract 20 from both sides. 5x equals 160. Divide by 5. And x equals 40. No. 80. No. 32. Okay, I was completely off. 32. Okay. And so that's how, you can use the base angles just, to solve that problem. We also have the converse, right? So if you remember, the converse is when you switch the order around, right? So the converse of the base angles theorem would say if two angles of a triangle are congruent, then the sides opposite are congruent. So we're basically just switching sides and angles from the ones above. Then the sides opposite them are congruent. So it goes both ways. So here's another example. Find the value of x in the figure below. So this one is a good problem because you actually have all three sides. And you know that two of the sides are congruent, right? Because these two angles are congruent. So you need to look opposite of those angles, okay? So these two sides are congruent. And if the sides are congruent, that means we can set them equal to each other. And so we can set up that equation. So we're not going to do anything with x minus 4, all right? The x minus 4 was just a red herring. It was just there to distract you. So we're going to subtract x on both sides, then add the 1 over x equals 8, okay? So don't be confused and think that you have to use everything. They're just going to label everything, and then you have to figure out which two things are going to be equal, okay? So now we're going to do two more examples. You know, this can get kind of tricky, all right, but we're going to work through them. So find the values of C and D in the figure below. Okay. This is going to be, you know, a fun problem. So the first thing I notice when I look at this is I notice C, right? That's a linear pair. So I know that C has to be 180 minus 42, which I believe is 138. So C has got to be 138, okay? And then what do we do from there? Okay, well, see how this side is congruent to this side? Well, that means that this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is D. That means this angle also has to be D. So this, now since we figured out C, we can make an equation here. We can say that D plus 138 equals 180. You know, and we can solve this. So 2D equals 2D plus 138 equals 180. Subtract 138 from both sides. 2D equals 42. Oh, God. Maybe you guys were smarter than me. I didn't even remember the exterior angle theorem. We can just use the exterior angle theorem there. Anyway, so D's got to be 21, right? So we can kind of finish this off from here, because since we know this is 21, these angles right here are complementary. That's a right angle. So we know the other side of that has got to be 90 minus 21, which equals, wait, we don't even need to fill out the whole thing. We just need to find C and D. Okay. Yeah, so that's how you would do that problem. So C is 138 and D is 21. Last one, find the value of x and y in the figure below. So this one's going to be a little bit more solving. If we look here, all right, once again, I notice that, boom, boom, two sides are congruent. That means the angles opposite them have to be congruent. So I know actually that 5x minus 10 is going to equal 3x plus 10. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that x is 10. All right, that's what it seems like to me. And I was correct. Okay, so we got x is 10. So we actually need to, we need to kind of figure out what these angles are. So if we plug 10 in here, that's going to be 30 plus 10. So that's going to be 40, which means that this angle also is going to be 40. So that makes 80. So that means this angle right here has to be 100, right? And because that angle has to be 100, that means this angle right there, that has to be 80. And because we have congruent sides again right there, right, this angle has to equal that angle. So we know that 4y has to equal 80. We can divide by 4 on both sides, and y equals 20. All right, so you got to think with these problems. You got to think about what you know. You have to use a linear pair, probably. You have to use the base angle theorem, all right? You guys can figure these out. Give them your best shot. If you have any questions, let me know, and have a great day.